Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome to Defining Duke Ultimate, a Defining Duke supplement. This is episode 118, and today I'm joined by, he does own a Lambo, Lord Cognito. How are you, sir? Dressed for the occasion, I see.
Yeah, I'm dressed. This is back in the day. I really love this shirt because this one is like, I think it was like, this is an old shirt. Like, this is like 4 or 5 years old. Yeah. I got this at my first E3, I believe 2015, and I believe that was Forza 5 launches.
Oh.
Yeah, so I actually mentioned this to Mr. Greenwald when he was at the event, and I was like, "You look different. You had a beard back then, didn't it?" Because he was like all shaven and stuff like that. So it was cool. But yeah, when we went, they showed off Forza 5 at that event, and then they took us to this thing. I think it's called the Peterson Museum. Was like nothing but exotic cars. They had the DeLorean, whatever. It was dope. And they took so basically it was like an Xbox Fan Fest event, you know, and that was my first Fan Fest, and I believe it culminated with this. So I love this shirt. I always kept this. I was like, this shirt is tough.
Yeah, there's memories.
You know what I'm saying? You got your little logos, your little turn.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite shirts.
Oh yeah, E3 2016. There you go.
See, I exposed. I didn't even realize. Yep, 2016. So it was a year after my first E3. So it was not 2015. It was 2016. 2015 was my first. There we go.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're gathered today to talk about cars. All right. So the Forza Bros, we promised representation. We were barred via contract to not be able to say anything during last week's Defining Duke. But Cog and I did go to New York City to attend an event, the Microsoft Experience Center, to try out some Forza Motorsport, play the career mode, and sit down here and deliver our thoughts. And we didn't really talk much about it afterwards. You and I, we went out to eat afterwards. That's that. For those who are wondering what I was talking about with the celery, right? When we started off one of our episodes, it was a little bit of an Easter egg. I was planting some seeds so we could do some long-term storytelling here on Defining Duke. But that's what had happened. That's what transpired. That's what brought Cog and I together. So let's just get into it, man. Like, general thoughts, Cog. Where do you stand with racing games, I guess, first and foremost?
It's interesting because my initial history of racing games used to be hardcore. Like, Cog is the all sports guy, right? So there was a period I was like, I got to be in every sport, you know, so even stuff I didn't know about. So hockey, and then racing came up. And there was a period where I used to watch F1. I used to be heavy into IndyCar stuff. And I believe the old Codemaster games started like my hardcore simulation bag for a little bit.
Okay.
And I had a friend who was so into racing. He was so good. He was a beast. He used to destroy me in any competitive. Like, he was a beast. But I used to learn from him, and we used to do these races and be like, okay, you know, 50, 100 laps, and you got to do pit stops. And I got into it a little bit. Now, since then, as I got older, you know, I kind of shied away from the hardcore and did more of the casual fun stuff. So, you know, for the record, I am a Horizon guy. Horizon fits the thing for me. Motorsport is always like the true purist simulation hardcore thing. And I've been away from it. So for me, it was cool to kind of play a simulation hardcore racing to see what has changed, what has happened since then. And I know we'll get into the thoughts and stuff like that. But that's generally my history. What about your history in terms of racing?
None.
Ooh.
None at all. No exaggeration. None. I grew up on arcade racers, so I was playing Burnout, Need for Speed, et cetera, et cetera. Like that, those were the racing games I played. And I usually veered away from racing games just because anytime I was in a car, I wanted a game that let me get out of the car as much as into it, like GTA. Like, that stuff was cool. It felt too limited. So, you know, stuff like I have in my game collection, because I love one of the launch packs that the original Xbox did, where it was Sega GT 2002 and Jet Set Radio Future. That to me is like an iconic game package. But I don't know if Sega GT 2002 would consider itself more of a simulation style game, but maybe that's the most hardcore I went. So I was very keen on this. I remember in high school, I had a buddy who got into Forza Motorsport 4 on the 360, and he was watching like Top Gear because of it and stuff. Like it completely turned him into a car dude. And I made fun of him all the time for it because there's no freaking way I'm going to be like that. But what I found was most interesting was as we heard more about the game during the summer showcase, I hear about this career mode, and I start thinking about the hardcore nature of it, where like Horizon, I could only get so into. It's just like, okay, I like open world. It's a fun game. It's creative. It definitely serves a particular audience, but not me. But this one, I was wondering if it would like scratch a particular itch that I never knew I had. And so I have no real experience with this stuff. And so I'm coming in from the extremely casual angle for those who don't know. Like I'm coming in as a RPG fan through and through, seeing if a racing game can light some type of fire in me. I gotta say there was something there, playing it. There is something there that I really like about this game. And we'll get into it, but Cog, I'd love to hear your initial thoughts now that we sort of set the table. What did you feel about your time with Forza Motorsport?
I mean, I want to set the tone on how they approached us before we started to play. Yeah. And I thought one thing that was very interesting what Dan and the team said was that we're not making this a car collection game. Right? We're going to make this,
car progression.
Yes, we're going to make it a car progression. We're not giving you a Lamborghini from the beginning. No Lambo, sorry. Now, the Lambos are in the game. Well, you know what I'm saying? But my thing is, like, we want you to start with kind of some lesser practical cars and then form this relationship, grow, level up this car kind of thing, and have this affinity for these vehicles before you go on. So the initial thing for me when I played, I was like, yo, the graphics look solid. I think we had like 3 modes. The first was like 4K 60, which I believe was the recommended mode. And then there was a second mode, which I believe was like ray tracing 60 with variable resolution. And then the third mode was full ray tracing, but 30 frames per second. So I left it at the default. And I thought it looked good. Oh, let's get this out the way, man. We got to get this out the way. Because, we coming off post Redfall. So we gotta state some things. Because I've learned a lot.
I wasn't going to cut you off. Yeah, but okay, go for it.
We were playing on Xbox Series X consoles, y'all. Yeah. We were playing on, there were Series X's right there. There was no question on what we were playing. So there's
no PC SKUs that we were aware of that were more complex than what we may or may not own. And they let us, where is it, right here, capture our own footage.
Yes.
So that was a good sign. A lot of these events do not let you capture your own footage.
Yeah, so to me, that showed confidence. That showed, okay, we're gonna show you on the gaming hardware itself. Now the high end, again, not that high end rig is bad. A lot of developers do that. During a preview event kind of thing, but obviously coming off, the casual, for me, it was very, very refreshing. So that I wanted to get that out the way. So, I thought the game started off good. It kind of gave us like some cinematic, preview of a couple of, we jumped into some fast kind of tracks in the beginning before we actually did like qualifying cup, which we'll get into later, but it was kind of like 1 or 2 super fast tracks with a super fast car. It was like Cadillac, some whatever, really cool prototype racing model car. And it was moving and zooming, and it was looking good to me. So I was just like, all right, cool. You know what I'm saying? I think that was just kind of like the warm-up. But like, what did you feel about the warm-up? And I guess we could talk about, I mean, your feeling in general of what you played, and then I know we're going to get into the actual qualifying cup thing and all that stuff.
Yeah. So they started us off, the big thing, like Cog said, they talked about was initially car progression versus car collection. And they talked about starting over, and this is going to be updated for years, and live service. And I won't lie, that rang an alarm bell with me, because I know we've seen successful Forza in live service already, so maybe there's no reason to distrust, but just in today's day and age, when you see a shift in game design matching with a product model where it's like, oh, we're focusing on progression now with the live service game, I do worry about that kind of stuff just initially, and it's just a gut feeling more than anything. I didn't see anything particularly to be concerned about on that level. The progression was great. We'll get into that, but it's something I just wanted people to be aware of on a concern level. But yeah, they start you off with I wrote this down because Lord help me, I would not be able to memorize it. A 2018 Ford Mustang GT, a 2018 Honda Civic Type R, and a 2019 Subaru STI S209. That's a mouthful there. But nonetheless, they gave us these 3 cars to pick from. And, maybe in the casual, I'm just like, all right, give me the Subi. Go ahead. Let's just do this. Let's just whip this thing here. And I think this game does a good job of naturally showing you the difference in not only the milliseconds on the road, but also your tuning of your car. I think we're so used to hollow progression in games, like invisible stat boosts, that you never really feel it. But there were 2 things that were major takeaways for me. Number one was after I was finishing these races and leveling up and completing challenges and getting these points and spending them in this performance upgrade, not the fine tuning, by the way, where you go in, you could change your compression of your tire and the axis and stuff. Oh my God. Like you can go in depth as people already know with Forza, which is why I always stayed away from it. I'm like, I don't even know what the hell's going on with my personal car, let alone what's happening in a game. So I was like, all right, yeah. So the performance upgrades are good for beginners like myself, where at first I was thinking, okay, invisible upgrades, like car go fast, vroom. Okay, great. But then King David can attest to this because he watched. I cranked up my handling too much because the first round I did for the preview, I didn't capture any footage. I thought I was at a computer or a console where the capture was already rolling. But then I realized, I looked at Jake Baldino was there and he had like the whole device and shit. I was like, oh fuck, I'm not recording. So I had to go set up over there. So I let the game, you have an auto progression option you can click and it'll just level up your car for you. And so I was like, okay, I need to kind of get going here. Like, let me just, before the session ends, let me just kind of snap through this. And the game auto progressed me where it was upgrading my acceleration. It was optimizing the best stuff for my car. So race 3 comes around and they tightened my handling something fierce, bro. It was like, I described it as a cinder block being attached to my wheel where it was like,
oh no.
Oh, so bad, bro. I was turning, David was cracking up watching me, man. Like he was watching me just turn corners at maybe 5 miles per hour because I couldn't turn the wheel hard enough. So yeah, what I'll say there is it was there I recognized like, wow, these are substantial changes that you can make to your car. And even though it's the same car, based off that about few hour window we had with the game, it felt like 3 different ways. There was one time I had it perfectly tuned. We were hitting the corners really smooth. We had good speed, good acceleration, good pickup. Then there was that where I tightened the handling too much and it was just way too tight. And there was another time it was too loosey-goose. I was burning out constantly. So the progression there stood out, but the milliseconds is what stood out the most to me.
Yes.
I forgot who said it. I think it was Rubes who said it when I was talking to him about it. But I recognized, I called it being a right trigger hog. I was just sitting there just like pulling down. I'm not trying to be funny. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I'm an RPG fan. Like I'm every other genre fan except racing. So I'm trying to be open-minded. I was like, I'm going to play this like an arcade game. Like I'm going to try to burn out around the corner. I'm trying to win in the straightaways. And I realized like I'm placing last. I'm not doing well. And so to answer your question, Cog, you talked about the warm-ups. That's where I started to get it because the game forces you to do a warm-up race, which at first you're like, oh, I want to get into the
you want to get into it.
I want to get into it. But there's this one mechanic that's like I looked into the footage. It didn't really have a name, I don't think. I call it the checkpoint system. So during the warm-ups, you have this thing. It'll say like turn 3 to turn 4. And you'll see a timer start on the bottom of your screen. And it'll start picking up. In your first lap, you're like, okay, it's clocking me. Whatever. Lap 2, you come around. You hit that same turn, right? And as you're bending around, it'll start turning red, or if you're behind on your previous time, or green. And what I recognized was as I was hitting the green, even by like half a second, you're like, at first, whatever, it's half a second. But then you recognize as you catch up to all the other racers by saving that half a second, quarter of a second, you've saved maybe a total of 6 seconds on a race, which is typically what you'll win by. So suddenly you're in third place now. And when you get in third place, like the game rewards you well, you feel good, you can scale the difficulty, it scales your rewards with the difficulty. Like that's where I started to get this almost addictive quality to it, where I was sitting there like, man, that kind of felt good. And I didn't even come in first. Like I feel like I'm getting something here. I have more to say, but I don't want to eat up too much on this. Cog, what did you make of the warm-ups, right? You're the one who brought it up. I know you and we did briefly chat about this mechanic. So what did it do for you?
Yeah, you nailed it. I think that is when, the magic of Forza hit for me. Look, again, I'm a Horizon guy. I'm used to festival music and going all crazy. And this is you in the road, the sound of this car, and maybe an announcer's voice here and there, rooting you on as you improve, right? So the thing that I liked about kind of like the open practice and the qualifying is that first it gave you a feel of the track. It gave you, and also I noticed they did have like a fuel load, I guess for the longer races and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the thing I noticed is what you said, because you start doing that, you start doing the qualify, and then you see like the track is broken into segments. There's little icons as you approach, right? And then you see that timer start, like you said. And I think for me, where the magic starts to hit is that it makes you want to improve. It makes you, because you're getting visual stimulation. Hey, plus, minus, whatever off that curve right there. You get a segment right there. And then everything you do, the game is like leveling you up, or you're getting XP, and you're doing. It's like it's all this positive. Reinforcement. It reminds me of when Project Gotham Racing came out. There was this thing called the kudos system.
Oh, I remember that game. Wow.
So anything you do a slide and a turn right, you come in, kudos. So it's all, you're seeing numbers go up. I
forgot about that game. That is one I played on the original Xbox, right?
Yes. OG.
Yeah.
And bro, it's visual candy. It's sound recognition, and it just incentive. And that's when the competitive side of me got into it. I'm just like, man, I'm liking this. So yeah, I got better. And then obviously when you finish your qualifying, that determines your placement. And then, we get into race day. I got thoughts. So I got a ton of thought about race day stuff too. But I was just curious about that, if you agree with that.
Yeah, the sound that you brought up is an important part, because one thing I was thinking of was when I started the preview, again, casual Manny, I was like, where's the music? I was like, what was the vibe of this game? Like, it's just racing, really? Like, I wasn't judging it hard, but I was like, okay, this has to be deliberate or extremely hollow. Like, it's a very quiet game at first, which you're not used to. But the thing that I picked up on as well was I'm hitting these corners, and you hear like the, and I'm like, that didn't sound good. Like, I'm just. Because then you feel in the controller too, like there's that feedback, and you're like, "Damn, I didn't hit that corner right." And you see your car, you see the speedometer go down like just a little bit, and it shaves off those precious milliseconds. And it's literally a game of inches. It's insane. And so, what I recognized was, if I'm making a good turn, I don't hear my tires hitting the road at all. It's a nice, smooth ride. So when I'm hitting those turns, there was this almost obsession, like, please don't make the burnout noise. Please don't. And that's when I realized if the music was playing, I wouldn't have given a shit about any of that, right? Point. I was very much, the gameplay was in sync with the audio. And that was another thing that went a really long way with me, because I felt, again, that's where I literally turned the corner and started to understand on a very amateur level what this game does right. And the fact that I was getting kind of hooked to it, like I played when I previewed and reviewed Forza Horizon, I played for a decent amount, and I was like, okay, that was fun. Like, this is a really good game, of course. Like, you recognize all of that, but like, this isn't something I'm gonna go pretend to champion every single podcast. Right. Like, it's the best Xbox game, just because, like, for me, it doesn't align with my personal taste as heavily as something like maybe Starfield would, for an example. But this, I can easily see myself sinking more hours into, if this is an idea of the quality that we're going to get. It really was, I hate to use the word, but it was addicting. Like it was, the progression being there, everything you're doing is getting you XP and points and leveling up. Like that kind of feels like something that was taken from Horizon. Wouldn't you say? Like Horizon, you're always getting something.
Yeah. It almost felt like, I call it like car RPG. Like everything was just progression and leveling up and doing stuff. And then I believe those points and those credits you can use to obviously upgrade your car and stuff like that. But yeah, I agree. I definitely think it had that feeling, or at least they took some inspirations from Horizon on that part. I felt a little bit.
Yeah, because for me, that leveling up almost, I think is why I'm connecting with it, because I'm progressing. I love the carrot and the at the end of the stick. I really do. It's something I'm not ashamed to say, like with these games, that if you add a compelling progression system attached to the game, like I will probably bite on pretty hard. I think it's just because that's what I grew up playing. Like I liked video games, but when I played KOTOR, I loved video games because it was that feeling of leveling up, getting better, building, tweaking, and Forza Motorsport has those elements to it through and through. How much did you mess around with the performance upgrading and the fine tuning, if at all?
Not that much, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was like, I am not going to sit here and fraud. Like, I know what the drive shaft.
Put on a little show for Xbox.
I was like, they had their reps over me. I was like, where? They said, there's a quick upgrade. I said, great. Where's that section at? So we're straight to quick upgrade. Then it shows you which parts will improve, or as far as your acceleration, your handling, all that other stuff, based on the upgrade. So look, they got that in for guys like me. But the cool thing is, yes, this is for the hardcore who can tweak and twerk and do all that fine tuning to the best of their performance. But I just love that they did have something like for the casual in me that I don't have to worry about that stuff. But I thought that was cool, and I upgraded some stuff, and obviously feel the differences next race and stuff like that. And then that set me up after the qualifying for the real race.
What did you make of what we saw of career mode? This was a big question mark for a lot of the community from what I've seen. Like, they want to know about this in depth. We got to play the Builders Cup, and that was really it. We were able to surf around the menus and just see what was upcoming. And it looked like there were a lot of tournaments you could participate in. But did you find it to be, as a career offering, did you said you played a little bit of the older Forza games. I don't know if you could compare, but did you find what we saw there to be compelling?
Okay, for what we played in the preview event was clearly like a tutorial mode in the Builders Cup, right? So that's just to get you acclimated. From my understanding, there is a career mode, but we were not privy to that yet. It was not. It was like available at launch. There was a couple of things. There were a lot of things that were grayed out, that we couldn't touch right there. But I don't know. I guess this is where I feel the longevity of this game is going to be determined, right? Because if they are able to nail a career mode that's addicting, that has great progression, then, people are going to play this for a long time. But if it's kind of like weak sauce, people are going to drop out. These career modes really mean a lot. So they weren't ready for that, to show us that part on it. They did show like a lot of other events based on car models, or like where you're ranking as far as performance and stuff for certain things, for multiplayer and stuff like that. But yeah, for our event, this was more so about a couple of races just to get your feet wet. Then the Builders Cup to really give you a feel of how seasonal play, I guess, will go. But from a career mode standpoint, I don't know, and that's going to be the big question mark.
I thought we did do career mode stuff. Was I under the wrong interpretation then?
Yeah, from my understanding, because I was looking over some of the docs, and it was kind of like.
I apologize if so.
No. You may, let's see if we both get it. Let's see who gets it right.
Because I maybe we didn't, but I know this is hilarious. Like, this is hilarious. Professional podcasting.
Yeah, I thought it was just kind of all right. Yeah, Builders Cup career mode. An all-new single-player car building experience with over 800 performance upgrades to build the ultimate racing machine. So maybe we were at the start of it.
That's what I was going to say. I surfed around and saw a lot of other tournaments there, but
right. So that could be just what we did was just the start of it, and there's more to it after that.
Yeah, there definitely is more. But yeah, for me, I just hope that there's that continuous progression. I think the idea is to reset the progression each time. Like, you draw an attachment to this car. Like, I don't know what the comparable to a level 20 2019 Subaru STI would be. Like, I don't know, what 2021 car model I'd see that you're starting off at level 1, but is it as good as your highly leveled up Subaru? And maybe that's what they're going for with this career mode, is like, you're going to stick with a car. I mean, that's kind of what they said they wanted. They want you to stick with a car for a long time, right? They talked about like everyone's first car. It's funny. I think Dan said everyone's first car was kind of like a little piece of junk, which is like true. Like, I think that's the case for most people. then they show us these pretty nice cars that I'd have no problem owning. They're like, yeah, you start off with a piece of junk. And I'm like, bro, what? This is a 2019 Subi. You think this is junk? Like, what kind of car does Dan own at that point?
No doubt. Yeah.
But what did you, so there was also beyond the performance and tuning, one thing I thought that was pretty standing out was the visuals. And I know we talked a bit about playing on Series X. You talked about performance mode. I think it's no secret the game is beautiful from what we've seen thus far. But what impressed me the most about the visuals was I made a note of it at the event floor because I definitely wanted to call it out. Is nighttime in this game? Like this might be in the modern age the best looking nighttime I've seen in a game, which I know is a really weird specific for some who don't care, but seriously, like I was impressed. I was like, okay, suddenly, because coming from the Bethesda Game Studios community, they make these mods like, real-time darkness or something like that, because the big complaint that some people have is that Bethesda Game Studios doesn't make their dark enough. Like, why is it kind of light out and Fallout at nighttime? Like, why can I see where I'm going? I'm like, because you want to play the fucking game, guys. But people will like mod in true darkness, and you'll see like the lighting come into effect a little bit more. And with Forza Motorsport, like when I'm driving around at night, I'm just seeing like the lighting in real time. It's visually impressive, man. Like that was the moment I was like, kind of like Forza Horizon. Like, okay, yeah, car game looks good. Seen that before. But it was like when we hit the nighttime track, I went, oh, you even look good here. That's where it impressed me. But you're the looker guy of the two of us. So where did you have that moment of like, oh wow, at all?
Yeah, I think it was two moments. It was like first, again, because before the Builders Cup, there was like this quick little get in race kind of thing, and it in the sense of speed was there before we got what I consider the hoopties, the little hoopty cars. You know what I'm saying? But at first I was like, oh man, no, this thing, the sense of speed, I'm like, wow, it's there, right? So that was the first thing. The second thing was that I was like, okay, when I'm looking at this game, I'm saying it looks good. The key for me was the lighting. There were times during like certain tracks where the sunlight was out and I'm going uphill and the light was so strong that it was making me hard to see the racing line, which is kind of like a realistic thing. And I was just like, okay, I know it's coming up. I know I should be braking on the racing line right now. I can't exactly see it because the way the light was coming in, it was like a blind spot. And I was like, but that's kind of real. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing is what you said. When I forgot what track it was, and we did the qualifying, but on race day, it was nighttime.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, this looks cool. The reflections, the lighting, the off-track stuff. And when I was looking, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's helicopters in the air. There were certain things going on, whatever. So I would say, yeah, this is definitely a looker. It's definitely something that looks impressive. I can't compare because I didn't play like the past Forza Motorsport game, so I didn't really play that one like that. So I can't compare it to other baselines because they've reworked a lot. I do want to talk about something, even though this is unrelated. I do want to talk about like the physics and this FRR stuff that they're doing. Yeah, this is what really impressed me from them. On race day now, look, COG, it's not the greatest, simulation race. I try to follow the rules. I'm not dirty, right? And, one thing about this game is it's promoting clean racing. It is all about clean racing. And the way, I got a chance to interview those guys. They said it's two systems. There's a safety rating. That's like, how much you dirty drive, track cut, ram into purposeful collisions, right? Then there's kind of like your skill racing, how good you are, stuff like that. So based on these two separate ratings, your driver rating and they're going to place you in queues. So if you're like, I think it goes from like S, that means you're like the top of you're the most, cleanest racer, whatever. F is like, bro, this guy's a terror on the road. Stay away from him. And then obviously they mix that in with the skill. Based on that, they put people in different pools. Right. And I thought from the competitive standpoint, that was really cool. But back to the race, this is where the game won me over. So now it's race day. You know how it is. The first lap, everyone's all bunched up. You're trying not to hit nobody. You're trying to be. So I'm like, boom. So there's a couple times I'm following the racing line, and I could see the collision about to happen from the other car, right? So I'm like, damn it. So boom, the person either nicked me or whatever. And in my mind, I'm like, bro, that wasn't my fault. I'm minding my business. I'm doing. So you see this thing that says collision. And then there's a pause for about 5 seconds. And then it says, ding, green light, no penalty, or boom, penalty, right? So way this is explained to me is this thing called
I didn't catch that. That's so funny. I was hitting fools to like get like when we were driving side by side and someone was about to overtake me, I'm like, yo, I'm fucking hitting them like there's a term for it when you hit like the low back end of the car.
Yeah.
And just
you know, you little rubbernecking, you know, it get that first turn with all 14, you know, it gets rough. You trying to avoid. So there was a couple times I'm like, yo, bro, that's not my fault. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, I know they're going to hit me with something. So they said, no penalty, right? Okay. So basically what this thing is, and I've tested, I felt it's using machine learning, right? So basically at the point of the collision, they look at the first, the fifth, the reason why it pauses is because it looks at the next 15 seconds after and the 15 seconds before the collision. Oh, then machine learning is taking a snapshot and saying, based on the course of racing, was that purposeful? Was that dirty driving? And they make a call. Wow. And now there was one time I was like, oh, yeah, that was me. And the game was like, yeah, that was you minus such and such on your time based on when you finish. And I love this because it almost feels like a virtual judge. It's like a judge making these calls, but the majority of the time, I thought it was fair. There was a lot of times I'm like, ooh, that could have gone either way, and it judged in my favor. So I'm super impressed by FRR, Forza Race Regulation AI. Excellent stuff.
Interesting. So that kind of plays into probably the AI of the game and who you're racing against, because one thing they let you do when you start up that I thought was kind of cool is you get to look at the racer list, like who's really good, who's really bad, kind of like who's the main threat on the road, which I liked because I imagine when we're all online and playing together, like in a preview environment, it doesn't hit quite as hard as it should, but that's okay. You know, you're playing in a closed-in environment, but I think online when you can kind of look and be like, oh no, it's him again, right? Like that. I think that's going to be a really cool feeling. So I think that'll add something. You can customize your avatar, which I thought was a little surprising there. It's very simple. Like what's your jacket, what's your helmet type, but they actually let you go ahead and do all that stuff. And there were tiers to the difficulty where there were layers, unless you played on a higher difficulty, that I didn't even see. Like there are races that you have to make pit stops for like repairs. You got to time that. I'm like, that's a whole level of simulation. I don't know if I'm ready for it yet, man. But yeah, this game has depth to it, dude. It was, I don't want to oversell it because we did only play for like 2 or 3 hours, but the fact that I walked away thinking about it, and it wasn't like I took because I took a train ride home, and usually I take my notes on the train and then probably put it out of my head. But it's kind of crawled back in a few times where even though it's coming out in a busy month, I'm like, you know what? I'm looking forward to it, right? I'm looking forward to that. Turn 10, mission accomplished, right? Because you know what? If this game delivers, COG, let's go. We might have to find a new game during the summer showcases to call the piss break game, man, because they'll be going back to back with games that have pulled me away. Forza Horizon less so, but if Motorsport does its thing, man, which seems like it's on the way to do, this could be the moment I bend the knee fully and really. I'm scared, man. What do I have to make fun of? I like teasing Xbox, man. I like being able to rib them for boring stuff, and they're putting me in a position where I might not be able to right now. So they need something mid. They need something mid.
Look, it was a good impression. I do have some concerns. We talked about the long-term viability of the career mode. It doesn't stay interesting. There's enough to do. There was one thing that I consider a little controversial, though.
Let's hear
I don't know if you saw this. Like during the race, after like the qualifying on race day, you look at everybody. I saw after the third race, they presented this option on placement. So let's say I qualify 12th, 13th, right? So they show the whole race grid about on race day, about where everybody is, COGS 13th. Then I saw an option that's like, hey, if you can move yourself up to 8th, you'll get less rewards, but whatever, right? And then, or you can move yourself down to challenge yourself and get like all these other rewards. So the gamer in me liked it, right? But I'm concerned for the hardcore guy. It's like, hey, bro, I just did my race times. I did my thing. You know, I earned my spot based on my good driving and qualifying. And does that piss them off? I'm curious about that for the hard. Because look, even though I'm not a hardcore racing guy, I'm a hardcore simulation guy in sports. I'm the guy that loves, you know, when Madden used to be good, or when 2K was bomb. You know what I'm saying? Like when things react realistically, played realistically based on stats, performance, things of that nature. So I am very curious because I do feel it's a little controversial for a hardcore purist guy. Because like, you gotta understand, man, the people who play these games,
oh yeah,
they're mastering these laps. They're putting in the work. You know what I mean? So I just want to know how that works. Is it optional? Isn't it? But I did see it. And I was like, I got to see how that's going to be. How it's going to be received, so to speak.
Yeah, no, good catch. That's definitely something worth keeping an eye out on. For me, kind of concern level, it's really just the live service stuff. You know, I wonder if the track amount is enough. They confirmed during the preview, and then they announced it publicly that there were going to be 20 tracks in the game, and I wonder if that's a lot or a little as you go deeper into the game. So I'm sure there will be more with live, thanks to it being a live service game. But I think otherwise, I walked away feeling pretty good about this one.
Yeah,
definitely. When you compare Redfall to this, where Redfall like I had a lot of like, what was that? We're going to see in the full product. I didn't have a lot of that here. The build that we played, I asked Xbox was, I think they said a month old at the time. So the preview we did was right at the very beginning of September. And so that was an August build. So it was pretty close to what the retail version will be, which was also encouraging.
Yeah, no, I think you made a good catch as far as the verbiage with them saying, all right, this is motorsport. This is a platform now. So the way it's explained is this is the motorsport we're having for this entire generation, and they are going to iterate upon it, kind of energy. So, you know, on one side, it's like, okay, I get it, but we got to see how you handle that, right? You know, we're coming off the Halo Infinite situation, who's supposed to be infinite and be around, and consistent content drops. And obviously, there are a little bit of controversies coming in. Now, I did get some clarification, give you some scoops.
Okay.
So
you talked to the man, right?
Yeah, I had an interview. I got an interview with Turn 10. I got to plug a little bit. It's going to go up, you know, around the same time when this goes up. Please, if you can, check out lordsofgaming.net. We had an interview with Turn 10. They were really cool. The three things I'll give you that I got was so the first thing, they made it their business to say like split screen was never part of the vision. So they were getting ahead of that because I was going to come for that. Now the spectator mode, obviously that to me is a disappointment because especially if in competitive racing, you know, you want to, you know, to be able to see kind of thing. So I didn't get the vibe that it was not possible and that they were not going to do it anymore kind of thing, but not at launch. It was that kind of not at launch energy.
Got it.
Series S, they were very coy about performance. They were not ready to discuss. Remember, I told you it was 3 modes that we played at for the Series X, right? You know, 4K 60, ray tracing 60 with variable resolution, full ray tracing 30 frames. So my assumption would have to believe that Series S ain't gonna have all those modes, and they're not ready to discuss what the features are. So stay tuned to that. But and then the last thing is now this one I side with them. This was competitive racing. They're launching on the most platforms. This is going to be the biggest launch for them ever. Remember, they're doing Steam, they're doing Windows Store, they're doing Xbox Series X, S, and they're doing Game Pass PC. So this is going to be they anticipate huge, you know, influx of numbers and player base with this. So the controversy is the PC guys, from my understanding, you know, they got them 240 hertz rigs. Right. So from the competitive standpoint, Forza is saying everyone is at 60. So, like PC guys are like, yo, but you don't let me max out. But I kind of understand because Turn 10 said, look, we want to make this a fair playing field across the board for everyone in that thing. So I agree with the decision. I know that in some of the hardcore circles, it was a little bit of a pushback. But yeah, no, I look, I was impressed with this. You know what I'm saying? I thought this was really solid. The key is going to be the longevity. Does it have the hooks to keep the hardcore in? And they're going to be the judge. And I think the last thing that he told me, part of the reason why they rewrote the physics, they rewrote the AI engine, they added all these different things for the physics, is that they also said in the past, like if you the steering wheel gang, right? If they used the steering wheel in past forces, they had no competitive advantage over controllers had. So part of that is to integrate this in so that those guys also can compete as well. So yeah, good. A lot of good nuggets from.
Definitely. Please check out the full interview. That's them out. Good insight because especially the caginess of the Series S, right? After the co-op, split screen co-op was canceled. That's definitely something to keep an eye on. Right.
Yeah, just keep an eye on it. But shout out to them. They were very transparent. I have to give them that. They, for the most part, they ain't duck no fade. They was outside with it, saying, kind of thing. But yeah, that's how I felt about it. I thought it was a good showing, man. It really was.
I agree. Nothing. I mean, we had a lot of confidence in this in the first place. I don't know if it's because of the genre or whatnot, but maybe we don't want to be foolish with like what happened with Gran Turismo. Everyone was like, "Oh, slam dunk, easy." So a lot of this is going to be how the hardcore community receives it too, right? That's what it always comes down to. But I'm very keen to see the response. But is there anything else you'd like to add in on Forza Motorsport as we wrap up here, sir?
Yeah, I just want to give Turn 10 their flowers. King says something very profound at the event that I thought was cool. He's like, the generation doesn't start until Turn 10 says it starts. You know what I'm saying? And like, as far as
He's saying that to me too, yeah.
Yeah, like what it is.
It feels like the generation has begun.
Yes, because what it is we're from the era of the racing game kind of being like a graphical showpiece and really setting the tone for the gen. And we got to give Turn 10 their flowers. They've been consistent a long time. These guys have been holding Xbox down. I know we call it the Big Mac, large fries of the shake, but bro, that Big Mac has always been lit from them from a long time. Like they've never really dropped the ball, fully. So again, a lot of changes. A lot of reworks, mostly positive. But like you said, man, it's going to be what's going to determine where this lands is how satisfied the hardcore simulation racer is. And that guy is. And if he's satisfied and they knock off all those check boxes, they'll be fine. But for me, casual cog, Horizon cog, I have to admit, I'm like you. I'm like, I actually am interested. I'm actually going to play. And it incentivized me to be a better racer. And I like that aspect. I like the car RPG aspects. I like the little, stimulation. Hey, you did good. That kind of thing. So that's where I'm at.
Totally agree. Yeah, it was, I want to say an impressive showing, so to say, because it was bite-sized in the scheme of things, but it definitely made me walk away feeling pretty solid about things. Yeah. So we'll see when reviews are out, and we'll see if we get access to any of that. But yeah, good time, and great to see you as always.
Yeah, it was good. That was right after all the things with me. It's my first time seeing you. You noticed the hugs were tighter, the hug was stronger. You know what I'm saying? And that was my first event, and I was happy to get through it. But it was good to see you guys and a lot of other friends that we know that was at the event as well.
Absolutely. So. With that, ladies and gentlemen, those are our thoughts after playing a couple hours of Forza Motorsport and a hands-on preview event. Again, Series X hands-on preview, couple hours. So just as a little bit of a recap reminder, we're looking forward to hearing your thoughts. So please feel free to chime in. Remember, because this DDU is going out with the lifting of the embargo. So if you have any follow-up questions for Defining Duke, the thread will be going live the same day. I don't mean to put too much timeliness within this here episode. I usually like to let them be evergreen, if you will. But please consider writing in if you have any extra questions, because I know with Forza, there's stuff that we have the possibility of overlooking, and I want to acknowledge that. So if there's any questions you have that are more pointed, please fire away. But other than that, thank you so much for tuning into a special episode of Defining Duke Ultimate, episode 118. With that, take excellent care of yourselves, and we'll see you in 2 weeks from now. Peace out.
Peace.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the United States of America. The show is conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Barry Lord Cognito Eversley. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level on Patreon, and we're thankful for your kindness and generosity.